Amazing. So, for all of you out there, welcome to our webinar on how to promote your brand in Japan. We're very excited to welcome you today. We've got a few people speaking on the line, and I'll introduce them in a second. But yeah, please do enjoy the session today. Hopefully, it's going to be very informative for you about how to work with Japan, how to market your products in Japan, and also we'll give you the opportunity towards the end to ask any questions you might have during the session. So please do hold those questions as you have them during the course of the session, and then towards the end we'll have a Q&A for you. So just a tiny bit about who we are. Not a sales pitch, but I just want to tell you that TAMLO, so everybody on the call today is part of TAMLO. We are a content marketing agency. We're based in 2 locations. So some of us on the left side of the screen here are based in London, Anna and myself, and then on the right-hand side, we've got Nanako and Yuichi. Can I start with Nanako? Would you like to introduce yourself to start with?
Sure. My name is Nanako. I am Japanese Canadian. I grew up in Vancouver, but I've also lived in Germany and Spain and the UK, and now I'm in Tokyo, where I was born. And I met Yuichi while I was working in London, and James as well. And it's really a pleasure to be, part of TAMLO. And my passion and background has mostly been content marketing. So for the past few years, I was in advertising, digital advertising, but it's a pleasure to be working mainly with content. So yeah, really excited to be here.
So pleased we could have you on the call, Nanako. Thank you. And Yuichi, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, as Anna mentioned, we are both based in Tokyo, and please enjoy today.
Awesome, thank you. And so Anna and I are based in London. Anna, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey everyone, thank you for joining today. I'm based in London, and I grew up in the US and Japan. So like Nanako, I also have a Japanese background. And so I work on both projects in London as well as Tokyo, and do more of the creative work, like copywriting and content planning and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited to be here as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Yeah, Anna, you're our lead creative in London, and I'm the other person in London. It's myself. So my background's in social media and social listening, and I look after the London office here. But as a team, we work very closely across both markets, which is why we're a localization business, helping international businesses localize to the Japanese market, and then vice versa, the other way around. So a little bit about what we do. Awesome. So a bit of an overview of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to begin with a simple one: why you should be doing business in Japan and the opportunity that lies there. Then we're going to be talking about how you should know your market and Japan's distinctiveness. And we're going to give some interesting insights into how Japan as a market is quite different from others around the world. And we're going to talk about the right channels. What kind of websites and platforms do we take advantage of as marketeers? And then we're going to look at how to develop a content marketing strategy targeting Japan and the people that live there. Finally, we're going to give some examples of Japanese trends creation, some good ones. And then finally, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A, and we're going to talk about our free consultation offer, which we're running at the moment. So that's what we've got in store for today. So to begin with, why should you be doing business in Japan? So the first thing is it's a massive market. It's huge. In fact, I think that number is even bigger now. It's close to about 126 million, and just shows the opportunity that advertisers and businesses have in Japan, especially when you consider that it's the 3rd largest economy by GDP in the world. There's a lot of opportunity in Japan for advertisers around the world. This is a little about the appeal of British products. I'm sure this also applies to other nations in the world, be it America, South America. But in the UK, there's definitely appeal of British products to Japan. And this kind of featured quite humorously last year when the UK and Japan were brokering their most recent trade deal. A big sticking point in the trade deal was cheese. and was the demand for British cheese in Japan, particularly Stilton, which is where this news article came about from. Shows you the demand. So next up, we've got the distinctiveness of Japan. So how does it differ from other markets around the world? So to do that, we're going to paint a picture using our own methodology at TAMLO. So whenever we undertake a project at TAMLO, we always consider the methodology of transcreation. We don't simply translate a piece of text, video, whatever content it might be, we transcreate it. And by transcreating it, we consider these three different methods: language, culture, and market. So to do that, to demonstrate Japan's distinctiveness, we're going to look at each individual area to show its distinctiveness. And we're going to start with language. So some of you on the call may know or may not know around Japan's language. So Anna, can you explain this slide for us?
Yes. So this is taken from EF Education's index, the English Proficiency Index. And out of 100 countries, Japan ranked number 55 in the world, which gave them a pretty low proficiency score. And so even though Japan is the third largest economy and it's one of the most developed nations worldwide, in terms of English proficiency, it is quite low, which kind of emphasizes the need for transcreation and the need for localization, because if a brand does choose to expand to Japan, they likely will not understand their English messaging or English content. So yeah, localization is quite important.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, so just to give a brief look at at how Japanese is quite different in terms of language. There are three different writing systems in Japanese: kanji, katakana, and hiragana. Some of you may be aware, but kanji is using Chinese characters. Katakana is mainly used for foreign words, not all the time, but mainly used for foreign words. And hiragana is the basic language system. So, for example, when we take the word sake in katakana, when it's written in katakana, it means salmon. But there's also a kanji version of the word sake that also means salmon. And then there is a second kanji on the bottom there that refers to sake as in alcohol or rice wine. So as you can see, the one word sake can be written multiple different ways, and they can mean completely different things. So if you're not a native speaker, you likely wouldn't know which form to use and what the nuance is. So yeah, it just complicates things even further.
And then next in our transcreation visual, we've got culture. So if you recall, it was language, culture, and market. This slide demonstrates the different feast days, the different days of importance during a Japanese calendar. And you can probably see that there are some similarities between some other calendars around the world, and then there are some differences. So maybe we can pick out a few and explain. So, I mean, one that jumps out to me bottom right is Christmas. So Christmas is on the calendar here, but it's slightly different, right? Christmas is celebrated differently to other cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say Christmas is celebrated more between couples and it's more casual. And you don't even get the day off for Christmas in Japan. If it's on a weekday, you work like a normal day. So it's less religious, it's less, ritualistic. It's more like a gift exchange kind of thing.
And are there sales related to Christmas in Japan like there are elsewhere?
Yeah, Nanako and Yuichi, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that most of the sales happen more in January after the New Year, because the New Year is a huge deal compared to Christmas. So most of the sales are in January, I would say.
Yeah, or maybe we call it like a winter sale season, and then also we have like a summer sale season as well. So maybe we have the kind of like same kind of like offer, like sales offer in August or July as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I've read quite a bit about how a bonus is paid out during the summer months. So there's often there's often sales around that time to take advantage of bonuses in Japan.
Yeah, and also we don't have like Black Friday. So that's also interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for e-commerce, they're starting to have Black Fridays, even in Japan, but the sales are not comparable to the States, for example.
Like, like China has like a say, like, when you need to localize the calendar as well. So let's say like China, in terms of like e-commerce, they have like kind of a big Black Friday each day called like a single day, I think. Is November 11th, 1111, right? So they make the most of the day for singles to buy something to treat yourself, right? Yeah. So China for that, and then maybe in Japan, like winter sale season, I think.
Around New Year's. Okay.
Yeah.
How does and so Halloween? I can see Halloween's on here as well. Is Halloween like a big thing in Japan?
It's getting popular though, like since 5 years ago, or something like that. But before that, Halloween is not popular at all. But it's kind of changing. What do you think, Nanako?
Yeah, I was really surprised to see last weekend in the my neighboring the Shotengai shopping district, like old shopping district in my neighborhood. They had all these kids trick-or-treating. And it was the 23rd of October. And I think it was because in this little old shopping district, they probably had like a promotion where if the parents go to every store, they collect a stamp from the shops and the kids collect gifts from every store or something like that. But it was really cute to see some kids dressed up, and because I've never seen kids trick-or-treating in Japan before.
I don't think it's common to trick-or-treat.
I don't know. I don't think it's common either, but it's cute to see that it's being picked up. But like I asked a lot of people, and apparently you don't have kids like coming to trick-or-treat to your door. Like you don't have random kids coming to your house yet.
Yeah. I think interesting to say yet, because maybe that might.
Yeah, who knows?
If more businesses offer, like a coupon scheme or something, some sort of offer, maybe we'll see it more.
But it's definitely commercialized. Like all the convenience stores, they all have like Halloween sweets, and some of them are franchises. And depending on the owner, they have tons of Halloween decorations. So it's kind of interesting to see.
I bet. And Valentine's Day and White Day, they're kind of interlinked. Am I right in saying that on the left here?
Yeah, but it's switched from Western Valentine's Day, because in Valentine's Day in Japan, the girl gets the guy gifts, and then on White Day, the guy gets the girl's gifts. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but.
I quite like that though. That's like equal, whereas it's kind of like one-sided almost in British culture.
Yeah, it's kind of equal.
Kind of equal.
I heard that in a lot of Japanese offices, the women are obliged to give chocolates to their male colleagues, but not all male colleagues give gifts to the female colleagues.
Yeah, I hate that kind of culture.
Yeah, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
No, but this is great. I think you put this together, Yuichi, and it's really interesting to see the different major events of the year and how to take advantage, and depending on which industry that your brand's in, taking advantage and maybe.
So if you're like a chocolate, your business is kind of a chocolate industry, you probably need to promote your product on Valentine's Day, because girls give the boy a chocolate. So yeah, so depending on your industry, though, yeah, you can make the most of this kind of calendar, the opportunity, yeah, or you should know if you come into Japanese market, yeah.
Great. Okay, awesome. Well, let's move on to the next slide, which is also around culture. This is to demonstrate the difference in taste around design. Two are, obviously home pages for two very well-known search engines. We've got Yahoo Japan on the left and Google on the right, and the differences are palpable in the design. And that seems that extends not just to websites, right? That extends to a lot of other areas in life when it comes to Japan versus other nations, correct?
Yeah. We might need to tell that Yahoo Japan is still very, very big in Japan. Number one platform in Japan. Everyone goes to Yahoo Japan every day, like me. So that's why we use Yahoo Japan, and then we use Yahoo Japan as a search engine as well. And yeah, it's obvious to the design is completely different, right? We love kind of complicated or lots of informations. Kind of design somehow not simple at all. It's not simple at all. Yeah,
that's true.
And I think we were discussing this the other day, that is that partly to do with the standards of hospitality that people have in Japan?
Yeah, I think because the Japanese mentality is that you don't want to inconvenience anybody. And I think that's part of Japanese hospitality, but also the thought behind the service culture in Japan. So you always want to think ahead and think of all the different options that someone might be looking for. And I think that's one of the reasons why people are seeking more information, but also the service providers are also providing all of the information so that the user can find exactly what they're looking for and everything that they're looking for in one place. And as a result, you have a lot of information and it really affects design. But people seem to prefer that over simple, beautiful, minimalistic websites, which is contrary to architecture, for example.
Yeah. I find that particularly interesting because when you consider Japanese architecture, it's quite minimal. So it's a kind of quite a juxtaposition on this taste. But that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I think Japanese people are used to a lot of noise and being thrown a lot of information at them. If you're in Tokyo, you step outside your house and you just have signs everywhere. You get to the train station, you have ads everywhere. They're all in your face.
Not even at a station, on the train as well.
Yeah, exactly. Inside the train cars, it's everywhere. Now they have TV screens. You can watch TV commercials. You're in the city center and you just have everything. It's everywhere. Advertisements are everywhere and everything is talking at you as well, right? It's not just visual, it's also sound. It's so noisy and people are used to that. So I think that advertisers just need to find a way to get noticed.
Interesting. Yeah, and we see that a lot, don't we? Whenever we come across projects, and it's whenever we're looking at design, it's often something that we have to do is to localize the design, whether it be a website or whether it be a form of kind of branding. This is something that we see a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, great. Well, let's head to the next slide. So this is a little bit into market. We've taken some information from two different studies, two pieces of research that were not done by us, but were done by, one was done by Santander and the other one was done by Edelman. Some of you may know the Edelman Trust Index. So we pulled a bit of information from then, and also Santander put together a large piece on Japan. So this is information from there. This is not all the information around the Japanese market because there's so much information to get your hands on. This is just a little bit of an insight into it. So I think many people around the world will know the aging population of Japan and the fact that the birth rate is declining. What some people may know is that consumers traditionally quite brand loyal, choosing quality over quantity. I find that interesting because that's my opinion of, well, that's maybe a Western stereotype of Japanese products, or that they are very like high in quality over say like quantity. Definitely a stereotype of Japanese brands over here. However, that's changing, I think, from what Santander has told us from this report, is that the pandemic has influenced how consumers are choosing and making choices around products, particularly with the rise of e-commerce and the fact that that brings a much safer way to buy products online. So that the game is definitely changing when it comes to choice. And then the final bit, the final two bands we've got there around trust. So that's from that Edelman paper that we put together a bit on. So Japanese consumers' trust foreign businesses only slightly lower than the UK and the US. So actually there's mistrust on business when it comes to the UK and the US, and Japan's just slightly lower on that scale. So a little bit more skeptical around business. But what's more interesting, I think, for me, is that there's much higher trust in search and social media compared to other markets. So what does that mean in the real world? I guess for me, it means that more often than not, a Japanese person, if they've heard about a brand, they'll use search or social media to get information about that brand before other means of media or other channels, more than the West. So that's really interesting. It means that for any brand, you really need to make sure you've got your SEO, your website, and your social media up to scratch, even more so in Japan than other places in the world.
James, I think I remember that like Japanese people are more likely to buy stuff on Instagram comparing to other countries, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Hootsuite run a report every year, and they look into click-through e-commerce. And Japan has got one of the highest rates of click-through e-commerce through Instagram in the world. So yeah, which is another one of the reasons why influencer marketing is very important in Japanese market as well, is because people trust social media and they trust search, and so if they see a product they love through Instagram, they'll buy it if they really like it. Yeah, if anybody on the webinar wants more information around either of these studies, feel free to get in touch with us, because we've written a lot and we've put a lot of information around these two different pieces of research. And here are a few actually more visuals from that research. So actually these are, on the left, this is e-commerce payments. So just online spending on e-commerce, and how 2019 is set to change for 2023. Interesting, I think, for me, what's quite interesting is that you can pay with cash through online payments. Like can you do that in Canada or the US?
I have not heard of anyone paying cash for e-commerce purchases in the US, but yeah, it's quite common, I guess, in Japan for to pay the delivery person when they deliver your product, your purchase.
Yeah, I've never had that in Canada. I think whenever you had to pay, even like customs, you had to go to the post office and pay. But just the other month, I paid the mail delivery man in cash for duty, which I've never done before.
I did that too in Japan I bought something from ASOS and I had to pay like 5,000 yen tax. It was really a lot of money, but yeah. I had to do that.
Yeah, and they only accept cash.
Wow. Well, we can see that trend is reducing. Of course, we don't need to explain what the reason for that is. It's clearly the pandemic. People using less cash, but cash in store though is still quite widely used. Am I right in saying that in Japan?
Yeah, I would say it's more common to pay cash than card, but
It's definitely still a cash society, but I'm surprised to see the number of, especially maybe in younger generations, but like people that I see in their 20s and 30s, they're all paying with their barcode payments.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing to consider when considering pricing a product and the strategy around it, because it might be better to price, if someone's paying cash, to price up something that's in easier amounts to pay with. When you pay with cards, you don't really think about like what something is, like the details of how many cents or how many pence you're paying for. But when it comes to paying with cash and you don't have the right change, that could be quite annoying. So that's something that I guess one might want to consider when localizing a product for Japan. The others are interesting that I find from the one on the left is the digital wallet increasing as well, like using your card through your phone. You can do that now, like on the subway, on the tube in the UK. You can pay with your phone. Are you seeing that more and more as well in Japan?
Yeah, you can pay with Apple Pay, I'm pretty sure, with instead of, because you can use like a digital or like a IC card called Suica, or what's the other one, Pasmo, but you can also pay with your phone.
Yeah, James, like how you have the Oyster card there. Yeah, in Japan you can pay at stores, like regular stores and restaurants and vending machines with your transport card.
Oh, that's great.
It's basically like a debit card.
Yeah.
So you just charge it up with money, and then you can, buy, like, I don't know, you want a drink, bottle of water.
Exactly.
Nice. That's great. Yeah, because they do that. I've been to Hong Kong. They do that with Octopus Card in Hong Kong as well. It's cool. Nice. And then the growth markets on the right are from the Santander study. So these are areas of industry that were picked out by the study on which, markets have got set for growth over the next couple of years. So part 3, let's move on. So next, we're going to look at choosing the right channels. So top websites and social media platforms in Japan and how they differ from elsewhere. So we've compared the top websites from Japan versus the US to the UK to look at how they differ. We mentioned a bit about Yahoo Japan already. We can see that Yahoo Japan as a website is number 1 in Japan. However, it doesn't feature from the UK, but it does as a separate entity in the US, which is interesting. We can see number 3, you've got Rakuten. Can you explain to me what is Rakuten?
Rakuten is basically Amazon for Japan, I would say. It's e-commerce site, huge e-commerce site. They also have like a financial business as well. They have like Rakuten credit cards and things like that. But yeah, it's mainly known for its e-commerce.
Yeah, they have mobile as well. I have their Rakuten mobile.
Yeah, they also have like booking service as well, like hotel.com, booking.com each service as well. So they just use, Rakuten Travel. Yeah.
They've got their fingers in a lot of pies, a bit like Amazon.
Yeah.
Nice. I guess what's also interesting for me is we've got Twitter in number 7 for Japan, which I think we'll move on to social media in a second. But that's interesting for me when, for me in the UK, Twitter doesn't feature in the top 10. That's interesting.
That's true. And Facebook doesn't even show up.
No Facebook or LinkedIn on there. Yeah. What's Pixiv and Shiatsu 8 and 9?
Pixiv is it's the platform for artists, right, Yuichi, where you can share your work.
Yeah, or illustration, or videos or something like that. Yeah.
And shosetsu is for novelists to share their short stories, and it's not like it's not an official publisher, but it allows not small, but unpublished,
kind of amateur.
Amateur novelists.
A publishing platform. Interesting.
Yeah.
Great. And then we've got the top social media platforms in the next slide. So I already spoke about Twitter. So Twitter in number 3 for Japan's interesting, because Twitter's actually for Twitter, Japan's the second largest market in the world after the US. So Twitter's very widely used in Japan, if I remember correctly. Although in the UK it's sitting at number 6, which is interesting. The big ones we've highlighted in red, the big difference is Line, number 2, which we can explain in a second. But most comparable to WhatsApp in the UK, Facebook Messenger.
YouTube is number 1 across the board, which is pretty interesting.
Maybe because of pandemic, I guess.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah. I definitely watch more YouTube videos now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see Snow's growth in Japan compared to others. Like, people really picked it up, and a lot of influencers, I think, in Japan, they took it on when it first blew up.
Yeah, can you explain Snow for those of us that don't know?
I think it's an Apple only audio sort of social media platform where you can just join rooms and listen in on people's conversations. And I guess celebrities who are on Snow, they have a lot of followers, and you can't just join it, you have to be invited. So there's this like sense of exclusivity that maybe other platforms don't have. Maybe that's why it's so popular. I don't know.
Maybe no, sorry. Snow is.
I don't have it because I don't have an iPhone.
Yeah, you're thinking of that the one that
Snow is not like platform. Snow is a camera app. So you can decorate your picture, your face, picture, whatever, with and then you can share it with your friends. So.
Oh, sorry. Am I thinking of a different app?
I think you're thinking of a different. I forget what it's called, but I know which platform you're talking.
Ooh, what is it called? Clubhouse.
Yes.
Clubhouse.
Yes, Clubhouse.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, Clubhouse is a camera app.
I think it's
popular for young generation in Japan.
It's like Snapchat, right?
It's just camera app. It's not like platform. But I've never used it, so maybe I don't know.
All those kids.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Anna, can you explain Line?
Yeah, sure. Line is a huge app in Japan and in other parts of Asia. Over 65% of the Japanese population uses it, which equates to around 86 million monthly active users. And it's growing every day. And it's mainly used as a texting app, like messaging, like WhatsApp is, but it also has many other features, like you can read the news on it. There's even a payment system. There's like a shopping feature as well, and businesses can also create their own account and communicate with their customers through the official Line accounts. So you can, promote certain products or discounts or sales online.
It's so powerful. I mean, if you want to run an offer if you're a B2C brand, you want to run an offer, it's this immediately being able to broadcast to so many people, so powerful. And the fact that there's so many people, more than 65% of the population, is just awesome. So I'm guessing very useful for BT brands then. Am I right?
Yeah, I would say it's better for B2C brands because you're reaching directly to the consumer. And consumers are using Line rather than businesses. Like you like a consumer is the one accessing the app. So I think it's better for B2C.
Yeah, it's probably the best platform for reaching Japanese mobile users because I think you're reaching 90% of mobile users in Japan. But in that sense, I think the best campaigns are the ones that are promoting like mobile apps or services on mobile. I think it's difficult to measure other KPIs for other services.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because if you've been sent an offer, I don't know, let's say from Dior, for example, and you click on the offer and it interacts directly with your account through Dior, so you can purchase that product straight away through your mobile. That ease to purchase is just so much quicker. There's no barriers, so I can see why. Yeah, why you're saying that. Awesome. So yeah, that ends our bit around channels. So next we're going to talk about how to develop a content marketing strategy. So the quick answer is it completely depends on the market and the audience. Depends on what brand you have, what service you have. However, we can talk about a couple of instances where it's done well and where it hasn't done so well, where companies haven't done so well. So I'll pass over to you, Anna.
Yeah. So we'll start with negative and then we'll go to positive. But this is an example of a brand that could not successfully localize in Japan. They entered the Japanese market, I think, a few years ago and recently pulled out. And this is our own speculation. This is not backed by official data from the company or anything. But based on our own knowledge of the market and our insights, we came up with 3 reasons why we believe Innocent could have, it could have led to their
Leaving
not unsuccessful.
This is a smoothie brand, right? This is just a drinks
Yes,
brand.
this is a smoothie brand. So I think it's an Irish brand, or somewhere in the UK it's based. And they make mostly smoothies. Super popular in the UK. I see it everywhere. But one reason why we believe that it didn't do well in Japan is due to the product design. So as you can see, the bottles are transparent, so you can see exactly what's inside. But in Japan, many juice brands cover the packaging, so you can't see what's inside. And so for somebody who's not used to that, it could be a bit jarring or a bit it's a bit off-putting to be able to see exactly what's inside. So I think a better way to do this would be to maybe have a covered packaging. And then another thing that kind of ties into the product packaging is the retail selection. So Innocent sold their products in convenience stores and in general supermarkets. But for a company like this that is a bit more specialized, they could have done better selling in more niche supermarkets, like more or health food stores, places where consumers might be more used to seeing transparent packaging and this kind of like branding. Because if you just sell it in a general supermarket, they're not as used to this kind of branding. And then number 3 is the pricing. So the Innocent smoothies were priced at around 300 yen. And if you go to the convenience store, you will see other juice brands, other smoothie brands priced at around 150 yen. So, or 100 to 150 yen. So Innocent is almost 3 times the, compared to the other juice brands.
Mm-hmm.
So, this also ties into number 2, the retail selection. If they want to keep the same pricing, I think it would have been better to maybe place it in more high-end supermarkets, high-end health food stores, that kind of thing, where it's not as, huge of a jump. So yeah.
So from what we've observed, it's like their strategy behind their localization, their route to market was slightly not what we would have done. Is that what we're saying? That maybe the packaging would be slightly different, and also our placement and where we would place the product as well. Well, we hope Innocent to come back to Japan. Maybe we can help them.
Yeah, exactly.
Such a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on to the positive. This is an example of a successful brand that localized to the Japanese market. I'm sure you guys know what Kit Kat is. They were brought over to Japan a few decades ago. And one of the reasons why they did so well in Japan is they focus a lot on like limited edition seasonal flavors. They have so many different flavors for every season, for even every prefecture in Japan. They thrive off of limited edition seasonal flavors. And then another thing is that Kit Kat, when you say it in Japanese, it's Kitto-katto, which sounds very similar to Kitto-katsu, which translates as surely win or you'll surely be successful, something like that. And so Kit Kat decided to promote their product as a good luck charm for exams. And so during the months of January to March, when people are studying and taking exams, people will gift Kit Kat as a good luck charm. And even outside of the exam period now, Kit Kats are used as good luck charms or as gifts. And they even have like a Kit Kat mail campaign where students can write messages to each other saying good luck and send a Kit Kat in the mail, like in the post. So they've done a lot of things around wordplay and seasonal activities and things like that. So I would say Kit Kat is its own thing in Japan. Even it has its own personality and own branding in Japan.
That's such a good example. Like when I consider the transcreation, the three different elements: language, culture, market. They've covered all bases there. The language, the clever wordplay, like the cultural. They managed to permeate culture by getting students to give them to each other as good luck charms, and then obviously the market with the seasonal flavors. Like I think like Kit Kat Japan's so much of its own brand that I'm pretty sure they brought the matcha flavor to the UK because of the success in Japan, and now it's
Reverse.
Yeah, exactly. It's localized back, which is fascinating, because matcha is now a big thing in London, but 20 years ago no one drank matcha unless you were in like a really like high-end Japanese restaurant. So yeah, that's interesting how they've looked back and they've looked at the trends and they've relocalized back with something. It's pretty cool too.
Mm-hmm. And even if you look at the example photo that you guys used, like it says, oh, we use paper packaging now, and you can turn it into a paper crane and write messages. Like that's so Japanese.
Yeah.
I used to turn everything into paper cranes, and people used to laugh at me, but like you can do that with the Kit Kat wrapper.
So cool. Like not only is it better for the environment, but you can also do something creative with that. I mean, it's awesome.
It's very clever.
A great example. Thank you, Anna. So next up, we've given an example of one type of procedure that we might go about helping a brand to localize for the Japanese market, or maybe the other way around for an English-speaking market. The top three are steps that we would usually do as standard. So we'd usually start with some sort of either workshop or strategy session or meeting to discuss the objectives, the challenges that a brand or a service might be facing in this new market. And then we would always talk about localizing the website. This is the face of a brand or a service. So it's really important that that's right. And then we would always encourage some sort of research. We've got a lot of expertise within social listening, customer research, customer interviews, surveys. That's important to do as well. And also to know your market, as we've shown already. And the other three, which I won't go through, but these are some of the tools or some of the ways that we might want to then go about promoting a brand or a service in Japan or other places in the world. So yeah, just gives you a flavor of what we might want to do. And that's more of a tailored approach, depending on what comes out of the research or the workshop. Nice. So let's look at some examples of Japanese trans creation in action. Go ahead, Anna.
Okay, so let's start with transcreation or translations gone wrong. These are, very kind of silly, but I think it drives home the point of when translations go wrong, they can really go wrong. So on the left is a menu. Says rice and noodle sets from $11.80, whatever. And then underneath that, it says kaiseki ryori, which, it's okay, but it's obviously not written by a Japanese native because basically it says kaiseki cuisine, and cuisine is ryouri, but this person wrote ryori. So they're missing one character, the u in ryori. So any Japanese person would see this and know that there's an error, or they wouldn't even write this. So this was, obviously not written by a native person. And then on the right side, in English, you'll see that it says shine muscat, which is a type of grape. And in Japanese, you would write this as shine muscato. But so in the katakana, it says tsuya iso muscat instead of shine muscat. And the reason why they completely got it wrong is because in katakana, she looks a lot like tsu, and so looks a lot like So it's very easy to mix up the two, the four characters. So tsu for she and for so. It's very easy to mix those up, and that's what they did here. So instead of writing shine muscat, they wrote tsuyaiso muscat, which sounds completely different.
And
Yeah.
what would be the typical reaction from somebody if they saw this from a brand?
They'd probably laugh.
Yeah, and to be honest, I only now just got why it says Tsuyaiso Maskanto.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but you're right. It can look like shine muscato.
Yeah.
Like if you're
it's one
not
of those-
careful, I guess it doesn't. Yeah, but it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's very wrong. And
It
kaiseki
must be-
ryori too. I feel like if you're Japanese, it would be in kanji.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, for those that don't know Japanese, so the left kaiseki ryori, that's written in hiragana, but typically you would write kaiseki ryori in Chinese characters in kanji.
It's interesting because I feel like the same is true into English, and for me it's very like it makes a lot of sense when you consider like speech versus what's written. Like if I'm speaking to somebody where English isn't their first language and they miss maybe a word or two, like no one's going to pull them up on it. But if you've written something on packaging or in a campaign and clearly people have checked it, but it's incorrect, it's a completely different experience, and there's a lot more from a consumer especially, you expect it to be perfect.
Yeah, especially if it's printed.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when you're spending money on, or they want you to spend money on the product, you expect it doesn't give you trust in the product or service if the language isn't right.
Yeah.
Great examples. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, so this is why trans creation is quite important for the localization process. And transcreation, we briefly explained in the beginning, but it's the combination of the words translation and creation or creative. And so instead of simply translating something from English to Japanese or from Japanese to English, it's important to have both Japanese native and English native people in the middle checking both sides so that the end result makes sense and is completely localized, keeping the original English message, but adapting it in a way that makes the most sense for a Japanese audience, taking into consideration language, market, and culture, as we outlined before.
Nice.
And this is an example of transcreation that we did for our own social media. So for TAMLO social media, we usually post in both Japanese and English. And so the original social media post says, following the popularity of hard seltzers in other markets like the US, Sapporo has released their own version called Water Sour. Could hard seltzer reach the same level of popularity in Japan? And obviously, I'm not going to read the Japanese because you won't understand, but I'll read the English translation of the Japanese transcreation.
Thank you.
So, but basically, because hard seltzer is not a well-known concept or product in Japan, first, instead of just directly translating it, we first explained what hard seltzer is and how hard seltzer is also spreading in the UK, not just in the US. And that in Japan, Sapporo has come out with a new product. So the end result is hard seltzer is a new alcoholic beverage that is popular in the United States. According to our staff in London, it is starting to spread in the UK as well. In Japan, it seems Sapporo has come out with a new product. So as you can see, the two different, English and Japanese is completely different. Like, it's not really a literal translation at all. But the essence of the message is the same, and what we're communicating is the same in the end. So that is what transcreation entails. You're not just taking a sentence and making it into another language. You have to consider, will the audience understand what I'm talking about? How can I add some context to this and, still maintain the key message? So, yeah.
Great example. Great. So in summary, today, we've talked about the opportunity in Japan that poses for brands and service brands. We've talked about how Japanese culture, language, and market are distinct through transcreation methodology. We're definitely saying make sure you do research on your market and choose the right channels when you're promoting your brand in Japan. As Anna just said, in giving that example of transcreation, make sure whenever you're transcreating content to have the content created, checked, proofread by professional native speakers, ideally with experience in digital marketing, digital content marketing. And then finally, there's kind of no one size fits all in selling successfully. However, there are some steps, and there is a methodology that we undertake whenever we work with a new client or on a new project. So I think that ends the session today. Before we open the floor for a quick Q&A, because I think we're running out of time, just to mention that whoever's on the call today, if you're interested in reaching out to us, we will follow up via email, but we are offering a free digital marketing audit on any project that you're working on, or maybe just having a look at any of your digital marketing signals if you're already working with Japan, or if not, we can look into starting the work in Japan for the first time. So feel free to get in touch with us, and we will, of course, also do so by email. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, everybody. Let's open the floor to questions. Does anybody have any questions for us after the session today?
Yeah, we've gone a little bit over time, so maybe we can only answer a couple questions.
Yeah, you're probably right. I don't want to keep people too long. So maybe 2 or 3 minutes of questions. So only can run over by 5 minutes.
Someone's asked about the popularity of LinkedIn and if it's a good platform for B2B use in Japan.
Good question, because I mentioned LinkedIn earlier, so you probably heard me mention it. Because LinkedIn's very useful in the UK for reaching out to B2B businesses, also very useful recruitment. How does that differ in Japan?
Yeah, I think Japanese people have been using Facebook as sort of a business networking platform.
Yeah.
Because people are, they have to have real accounts. Like it has to be a real person behind the name on the account on Facebook, unlike Twitter, where you can be anonymous, and Japanese people who are very shy and they care about their identities. They tend to voice opinions about brands and other things on Twitter, but on Facebook, it's quite conservative. People only connect with people that they've really met in real life. And most people only really use it for business networking these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
in terms of Twitter, like even like, people have like multiple accounts because they want to keep themselves like very anonymous, want to chat anonymously, a diverse range of like topics on Twitter. So yeah.
Do you think though also, I mean, I might be completely wrong here, but in the top 10 of websites, we had that publishing platform, which is really interesting to see that on the top 10. Do you think that text and writing plays a really crucial role in Japanese media and channels, which is one of the reasons why Twitter is so popular, the fact that it's kind of text-based?
Not only those kind of like a platform, we also like blogs. So lots of like blog platforms very popular as well. So I don't know. I just want to ask you about like why BBC is so popular in the UK.
Yeah, you're right. That's a very hard.
So that's the kind of like a difference between Japan and the UK. Let's say. So we love blogs, and then you love BBC or the news channel.
Large media.
Instead. Yeah. So yeah. There should be a kind of characteristic something behind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I read something about how Japanese people love the challenge of trying to beautifully construct a tweet within 140 characters. And I think the use of Chinese characters, kanji, makes that a little bit easier in the Japanese language to say more with less characters. So I think that could be one of the reasons.
Interesting. Yeah. Great questions. Thank you to our attendees.
Oh, I just saw in the chat. It seems like we just answered.
Yeah, you already answered.
Questions. Yeah, so I think Facebook popularity is going down a little bit. And surprisingly, there are more users on LinkedIn these days. I think just last year it was 2 million and this year it's 3. So it's increasing, but it's still a very small community compared to Twitter, for example. Just people use the platforms very differently. Yeah,
I find it interesting that people in Japan use Facebook as kind of like the LinkedIn for Japan, like more for business connections. I find that really interesting because it's actually set up very well for that, Facebook. There's you can create your own profile, you can connect with other people, like it's set up very well. And I can see why they would use it like that.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing for me though, because I use it to communicate with my family in Canada. But then I message the freelancers that we work with and do business on Facebook Messenger. Yes. It's like very mixed.
Actually, I also had to do so sorry.
Oh, but that's how Japanese people use it. They use it for work. Yeah. So I don't mind, but it's just funny how it's very different.
Yeah, I think the first time I talked to Yuichi was on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh my god, like he's gonna see all my photos." And it's gonna be so weird.
Yes, before I contacted you. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, that's funny.
So I guess what's clear then is it's like depending on what type of product you have, what type of brand you have, like your strategy when it comes to channels is going to be very different in Japan, the rest of the world.
I know that a lot of people want to know about Line, and a lot of people ask about Line advertising, but it's difficult to promote every kind of business on the platform. And I really do think it would be best for B2C, but also for retailers that have physical locations in Japan, because a lot of the benefits for businesses are like the coupons, right, Anna?
Yeah. You can easily create like a promotional campaign through Line and send people coupons and get them into your store. So yeah, I think that's a good point.
And what would you call it in English? Like shoppukado, like where you get stamps, like coffee cards, like if you buy royalty cards. Thank you. Yeah. So they have that, but it's digitized and it's within the Line app. So if you're like a coffee chain, then, it makes a lot of sense. But if you're selling, I don't know, like English courses, then I don't know if it's the best platform.
Yeah, like a physical product.
We've had another question, again from Natalie. Thank you, Natalie. So what brand, if you can say, has been the biggest challenge to you? I'm guessing to localize from English language to Japanese. Okay, so yes, amazing. That's a very good question. We work with a really large variety of different brands and services. We work with businesses that are B2C and B2B. But which the biggest challenge? I think. Would you guys agree? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I'd like to know that too. What was the biggest?
I would say that a product usually can be slightly more challenging. And please disagree with me if you guys think. I think that if you're selling to consumers directly, then you need to, as we've shown from the Innocent example, your localization just needs to be really, really good. I think if you're selling to businesses, there might be a little bit more leeway in the localization, maybe not being quite so perfect, but please disagree with me. What do you think?
I think it can be challenging if a brand has a certain brand personality that may not translate well to Japan.
Kind of a strict, guideline.
Yeah, because like a super humorous, like I don't know, like silly brand in the States may not work in Japan. Like they may not have the same sense of humor, or the messages just don't work in Japan. So if they have a certain personality like that, or I don't know, any other personality, like a very particular way of doing things, then it can be hard to localize that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. If they've got really rigid branding guidelines that can't be amended or changed or localized very much, that's super challenging. Yeah, we've definitely come across that before.
Yeah, that's true. One of our tech B2B clients, they use a lot of fun language, even though it's B2B. And in Japanese, it's a little bit more rigid, isn't it? It's a little bit more serious, and there's fewer exclamation marks and emojis, maybe.
Yeah, and memes as well, right? Because memes aren't used quite as much in Japan, so that's often a conversation we have.
I don't know what's easier, a product or service.
I think really the answer is it completely depends. It completely depends on how rigid the branding guidelines are and the industry. I think it's hard to define what's easier or more challenging. But I would lean across that when you're working with consumers directly, then it can be a little bit more challenging. There's more elements to it.
Yeah, and like anything niche might be actually a little bit easier to sell because it's so unique. Anything that's a little bit more like mass, you need to get more creative, I think.
Yeah, if it's niche, you have a target. You already have a target. Whereas, yeah, if it's more general, then it takes more work.
Yeah, one of the challenges I faced recently was, well, not myself, because I'm not a creative, but something that I noticed is with probably both English and Japanese, the fewer characters you have to work with, the harder it is. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
The harder it is to be creative and have the message be effective with like a short phrase. And so you really have to use your creative juices to come up with something unique and effective. So I think that's been a big challenge I've experienced recently.
Yeah, it's fun though. Makes it more
Right? Yeah.
It's more rewarding.
Yeah.
Glad you think that way.
That's why she's creative person.
Yeah, that's why you're the creative.
The great questions. Thank you so much. I hope we answered your questions there. But thanks everybody. I think that's probably all we've got time for today. But yeah, to everybody there, thank you so much for joining. I hope you enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. And yeah, we'll be in touch to say thank you for joining over the next couple of days. And feel free to ask us any more questions if you do have them by email, and we can answer them for you.
You guys.
Thanks
Awesome.
for joining.
Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.